really none of your business. It's none of my business.
Hello, Fáilte, bonsoir, and welcome to the Motivated Classroom August Spotlight. Believe it or not, it's day 14 already. We're nearly halfway through. And today I am spotlighting the wonderful episode with Dr. Beniko Mason and Alice Ayel. This was episode 108 on story listening. Now, Dr. Mason and Alice really opened my eyes and my ears to story listening and its impact and its power. Now, Margarita mentioned this, and this was yesterday's spotlight, and the way she starts introducing stories and story listening before she does the chapter of a book. So she kind of tells the chapter as a story listener and then they read it. But it was great to hear Beniko and Alice go into more detail. So Beniko started off by saying story listening is there to provide optimal input as much as possible to everyone in the classroom for natural language acquisition. We do not ask students to output in the classroom. That's because story listening is based on the theory called input hypothesis, which of course we had from Dr. Krashen, which says that the cause of language acquisition is input and not output. So it's important that she really kind of gives us a framework right at the beginning. And then she goes on to say about the differences when you are telling the story or when you're having students listen to the story. And she talks about linguistic supplementation and non-linguistic supplementation. So non-linguistic is things like drawing pictures, speaking slowly, using gestures, facial expressions. But then there's linguistic supplementation. And this is when essentially you talk more about the thing that you're presenting in the story so as to give a real rich and wide-ranging input. And she gives this beautiful example about, let's say there's a man, once upon a time there was a man. She's like, you would never do that. It'd be like, once upon a time, a long time ago, maybe it was 200 years, maybe it was 300 years ago, and there was a man with a long grey beard, and he was playing with this beard. He was an old man, about 80, maybe 90 years old. So you're giving all of that extra input, and that is what's called linguistic supplementation. So you're talking lots and lots and creating this picture in the students' minds, and that's all about story listening. And then they both spoke about the fact that in story listening, we don't just use high frequency vocabulary, but also low frequency, but not so difficult words. So she says, Beniko said, rich input means we provide lots of words that the students already know, and also the words so to help them see the thing. We may think that these words are easy and students already know all of these, but there will be some who don't know them, and therefore we just do it. This is called the net hypothesis. We throw a wide net of language to the students so they can pick up anything they want. They're ready to pick up. So I thought that was really nice, that metaphor of the casting a wide net, like a fisherman, and the students will pick up what they pick up. And then Alice talks about drawing the story. She said, first of all, the best thing about drawing the story is it slows you down. You're not telling a story, you're describing it as well. You're giving abundant, optimal, rich input, a great deal of it. And as you draw, you also describe. That's the beauty. It's really helpful for learners to be able to understand the story. They're intrigued. And then finally, I thought the really nice part that Alice brought the whole thing together. It was again about this we've talked a lot about this on the Spotlight, about input, output, and the fact that we understand that acquisition is built through input and that the output will happen spontaneously when it's ready. And Alice ended by saying this. She said, the key sentence is really to trust the process. Trust the process of listening. Input is enough. It's the cause of speaking. That's output. If you force them to speak, they're going to be stressed out, and you don't want them stressed out. You want them to be relaxed in order to acquire the language. Having them speak when they're not ready to speak is not going to work. So it's going to come eventually. You have to trust the process, and they will start to speak naturally, spontaneously when they're ready. And for some, this may take longer. Some students may want to speak straight away, but not all of them. So we have to respect their own unique differences. And I thought that was really, really nice. Just that we know that they're going to acquire and they're going to build a system through the input, and they will output spontaneously and talk to us when they're ready and when they feel comfortable to give us one-word answers, two-word answers, and then gradually into sentences. Just the way we see with children who are acquiring their first language. My daughter first started with just yes, no, up, down. That was as much as I got for ages. Then it was a couple of words together, and now she's trying her best to string sentences together with loads of errors, but those errors mean that she gets the interaction and more input from me and her mother and everyone else, which means that she can then realize, oh, this is how you say it actually. And that's how it all works. So thank you very much for tuning in to day 14 of the August Spotlight for the Motivated Classroom. Hasta mañana.